Okay, this is going to be the second in the series of 3 junk journals that I made for the trip across the country to the Redwoods. This is the second one, and it is about the Redwoods, just for while we were 4 days at the Redwoods. It was a journal I had made previously, but I took it apart and saved some of the pages that were blank and decided to use it for this journal. It's got a little pocket at the back and a J for junk journal, and it's got all kinds of vintage lace on the spine. There's 5 signatures. This is one of my favorite little charms from the trip. It's hard to find charms. A lot of the charms are from keychains, and this was on a keychain, and Pat bought me this when we were there, and it's a whole little collection of postcards, both sides, and they're teeny tiny little postcards. So cute. So the journal has 5 signatures, like I said. All the edges of it, I added a lot of lace to this one, and charms hanging off the edges. There's a little bit of lace here that has beads sewn into it. The tie wraps around several times, so I just bundled it up, left it aside. I put little edge markers here on the corner of the journal. This was some fabric that had different license plates from all the different states, and so I added them all in here, the ones that we traveled through as we went. I put the Luna moth on this page because Julia Butterfly Hill, that saved the Redwoods back in '89, I believe it was, lived in one of the redwood trees for, I think it was 380 some days. And she called the tree Luna because the Luna moth kept flying around. This is before we actually got to the Redwoods at Laguna Creek, and we had walked around there, and there was a bunch of driftwood. I mean piles of driftwood, all kinds of sizes. And so I arranged some of it in the letters of love. And it was probably redwood driftwood. This is a gel print on black paper. Here's the redwood trees that were right next to one of our camps at Elk State Park. And some of this stuff might be out of sequence because I think Elk State Park was where we actually stayed, and Richardson State Park was the first redwood park we stayed in. These are little specimen cards I made with some of the plants, a walnut tree, and the brochure from Richardson Park. And this is pine needles from the redwood tree. This was a flower that Terry had given me at one point, so I stuck it in the book. This is a collage of brown paper sack with tissue that has writing on it and some white tissue, and then I glued that all on the brown paper bag. Then I did the mamagami process to the bag, so it's all crinkled and wadded up. Then I sewed on it and sewed the card on. This is another little bag, and I saved the handle on it. And this was at a part of Prairie Creek where there was beautiful clovers growing next to this huge, giant, dead stump of a redwood tree. And the clover was like 2 feet tall and thick and lush and giant clovers on it. So this is a collage page and stencil. Here's a little collage here that I made into a pocket, and it's some more of the mamagami paper that oh, it's the other side of this page. Yeah. And so some of these birds we did not see, but we definitely heard and identified on the Merlin app. So I've added, some of the birds were just way up in the trees. You never would see them. This little pocket has a list of 5 things that stirred excitement. So I wrote down little things like the giant ferns that were like 4'11", as tall as me. 5 things that brought a smile to my face. The play on words that we kept shooting back and forth to each other. When we'd travel, we'd be on the phone, especially if we were like, where are we going to go? Let's turn here, that kind of stuff. And Chandler, great words he said to me at the Toyota dealer. This is what I'll do for you. And he had it all down. Be present, not perfect. This is 5 beautiful experiences. The Balboa Park and Luther Burbank, Dinosaur Ridge. The welcome committee that had a drum circle at one of the campsites. They were so sweet. I added a lot of drawings to this. This is an old map that I drew our southern route going out and up the coast, and then our northern route coming back. And we were gone 33 days, 29 campsites, 7,677 miles. We went through 22 states, 24 state and national parks, 45 birds, and 1 morning at the Redwoods was identified on the Merlin. The cost of the trip, we had $216 of food for the month for each of us. So that was $630 some dollars, $40 some dollars of food we spent. But the total was $1,773 total cost each. That included gas, campsites, and food. And everywhere you could add little notes. So here's a little story here about the Laguna and some paper articles that I found at some of the rest stops, or not rest stops, the state parks. And here is some moss and redwood pine cones. And this is a map of the campsite. This is a slow stitch pocket I added on here, stitching around. Some of these big charms I added. This is a coffee bag from, I think we got coffee maybe 3 times. Terry didn't drink coffee, but Pat and I were like, oh, let's stop, have a treat. So this was a magazine, paper magazine from one of the state parks about the fires, and I stamped it with their stamp. Pat was really big on stopping at the state parks and getting her state park book stamped. So I started doing that too, on just stamping whatever I had. This is some vellum paper with stencil, brushed oxide, and a picture of the Redwoods postcard. There was 4 condors released in 2022, and I found this feather. I have no idea what kind of bird feather it is, but and there's a little condor I put on this page. And then this is a gel print with a redwood tree stencil. And here is at that Laguna in the backwashed areas where the high tides come up in, and it has little swampy areas and little creek areas, but then when the tide's out, it's dry. This is some more moss and pine cones from the redwood trees, and a postcard attached as a pocket. A lot of these birds we did not see, but we heard them on the Merlin app. And then this is some grasses that I found, and it was just really big seed heads, so I was curious about what kind of grass that was. And in here is the white-crowned sparrow at the Redwood National Forest. And this was a big collage centerfold I made using an old atlas map, and I took the globe from the front and back page and put them in here. It's the Western Hemisphere and the Eastern Hemisphere, and then made the pockets and added my postcards into the pockets. This is a collage with using tissue paper that I had gel printed on. This was a card I found at one of the gift shops at one of the RV camps that we camped at. We camped at a few RV camps, and they weren't near as much fun as just a good campsite because all the giant RVs were around us. Her feet hurt from kicking so much ass, and I had a pair of black fringed boots that I wore and happened to have on every time we had a major incident, like the car part situation. Terry's driving seat wouldn't move up one time. It was broke, totally broke, so we had to wait until somebody drove by. We had gone out to the middle of nowhere to have lunch in this small little town, and so we were off-road, and there we were stuck. I saved the little bag from the cards that I bought, and there's some more moss here. I have a terrarium that I've put several of the mosses in, and they are still growing, so I'm happy with that. Another collage page. Some more moss, 2 different types of moss from the Redwoods, and pine. There's some more stamps from the state park, and then put another postcard. This is this paste wax I used for making a stencil and did a little collaging on here. This one is a bird fold out. This was a restaurant, Cowl Eatery, that we stopped at. Actually, that's in the next book, but for some reason I put it on this picture because I like the poppies that were at that restaurant. And this folds out. It's like a little collage I've done on the whole thing using different types of papers, and then the birds I hand drew and watercolored. Oh, the Stellar Jay, he was fabulous. Oh, that's a scrub blue jay. Well, there was a Stellar Jay too that was really neat. On the back side, we actually did see the pigeons. Did not see the condors. So that's a little tie in there. This is gel print paper that I cut a gap in it and made it into a pocket for this drawing I did of the redwood tree, one of them next to our campsite. And it kind of looked kind of cool in here, like that. This is a collage that I had several layers and sewed around it and then peeled back. And the bottom layer had the bird stenciled on it or gel printed on it. And this is gel print here. And there has been many a vans. I had a Volkswagen van in the 70s. Many a vans traveled cross country. I'm not sure why this page is so blank looking. This one has another paper from one of the visitor centers and a Pacific Slope flycatcher. So a lot of these pictures I drew while I was on the road. That was the 21st of May. Because I didn't have the scrapbook to put things in, but I had art paper to do it on. This was from my mom's house, a National Geographic from 1959, and we had gone to the California Redwoods when I was 9 years old, and so I added that to the book and zigzagged with gold thread there. Another gel print with the redwood tree stencil. And then this is brown bag that I glued tissue paper on. And another journal note tucked in. This is a little collage I made. There's several kinds of papers on here. And then did a stamp and drew this postage stamp cancellation type thing. And this was coffee dyed paper that had stencils in between the sheets as they coffee dyed, and then you lay them in the sun and leave the stencil on the sheet. It was one big sheet. And then I just tore this particular number out. And this is a Bob White that we saw. Actually did see the Bob Whites. And here, this is a rare merlet. They live in the top of the redwood trees, so no one ever gets to see them. We did not hear them on our phone app, but I drew the birds here because they talked about them being there. And then this is the life size of the egg that's there. This is another little journal that I did write in as we went along on the 21st. What did I say? 7% of the grove is left that they've cut down. A lot of the old trees. So anyway, this is where I wrote odds and ends of notes while I was there. I did get altitude sickness really, really bad. So bad that I didn't know what was wrong because I thought I was having heart issues. And so we got an ambulance, which took forever to get because they had to go out 15 minutes away to get to a Wi-Fi to notify the Cal Fire emergency people that were just the fire people. They came and waited until the ambulance actually got to us, which was like, I don't know, half hour to an hour. And then they got me out of there and took me down to a little town. And Terry and Pat followed in the car with my dog because we couldn't leave the dog there. And when I got into the hospital, Terry came right in within minutes. She was up there. Pat stayed at the car with the dog and walked the dog. And we were standing there, and all of a sudden, the girls are like making all kinds of noises, and the nurses, and they'd had a 5.7 earthquake while we were there. And we're like laughing about it because like this just can't happen. It's just craziness that would happen to us. So yeah, ice storm. No, not an ice storm. We had a hailstorm, a sandstorm, the windstorm, and then the earthquake, the car. It was crazy. A flat tire at one point with her car. Also coming out of the Colorado mountains, we had her brakes went out. I mean, literally no brakes. Thank God we were at the bottom of the hill and literally rolled and rolled and rolled until she could stop. So there, earthquake, we're like, yeah, bring it on. We're ready. This was a map that I did. This is another collage. And Carolina wren. This is a black-headed grosbeak. Another little bag from buying postcards. So I just left the postcard in there, and this is the stamp from the park office. Oops. It's going to come apart now. Okay. So this is another collage, gel print. More postcards. Oh, that was my grandmother. I don't know why, I just wanted her in my book. Just another little pocket Momigami paper. This is the Stellar Jay. He's the one that sat on our picnic table right at the Redwoods when we were sitting there and just kept going, where's the food, where's the food? But we didn't have any food. We were working on our junk journals. Some more collage pages. Just notes I wrote everywhere. Some more postcards. Little pockets I made all the way across. Another gel print. And a bird. Oh, and this is the magpie. At one point we had pretty cool magpies. Now that drawing was done later in June when I got home. And another Luna moth. And that's with gel print paper that I cut out and glued on and then added glitter and these other lines to it on this collaged paper at the back. And there's another magpie. I even matched the colors. And the last page is another redwood tree. The museum. This page I added some pencil sharpening wood and little glitter things in there. So that's my second journal to this. Yep, that's it.